Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are back to the world of Critical Role with their other show, the Mighty Nine.
Hmm.
So, if in case you haven't listened to the Vox Machina podcast that we did, Wolf is the bigger Critical Role fan than I am. Is that true?
Yeah, probably. I
Yeah,
haven't
but
watched
because
it.
if I,
Like, I haven't watched the main podcast a ton, but I would say I'm probably more familiar with it than you for the most part.
Mhm. Because I remember that I just did some research whenever we did Vox Machina. You were the one who suggested it. You were the one who came in with some knowledge about this.
Yes.
So I just did my research after watching Vox Machina. So so in that case, did you know about the Mighty Nine when it was going on, like the podcast role play thing itself before jumping into the show?
I knew that it existed, but I have watched it less than Vox Machina. Right, like I'm less familiar with the Mighty Nine than Vox Machina. I
Okay.
do know, if I'm not mistaken, I think people tend to prefer the Mighty Nine over Vox Machina for the podcast just because they like enjoy the characters a lot more. If I'm not mistaken, I'm sure the fans of Critical Role will correct me in the comments if I am wrong.
Well, also it's probably something that's subjective because
This is
while
true.
because I've heard that apparently
I'm speaking very generally.
this is in the same continuity, kind of like how Aang and Korra are in the same continuity of Avatar, right? But it's still two different things, so I can see how there might be a debate on which one is more preferable.
Yeah,
But I
it's,
guess.
if I'm not mistaken, it's same world and characters can appear in both of them from one, right? But the stories are very disconnected from each other for the most part.
Because according to Wikipedia, there's a 20 years gap between the two of them. Like
Yeah.
Vox Machina comes first and then the Mighty Nine. So
Yes.
I'm going based on that.
That's fair. Again,
Now, in
yeah.
terms of the show itself, you put this up in the Outcasties last year, if I recall.
Yes. It was very good. It was very to me it was, I enjoyed it a lot more than I did Vox Machina, and I I would say it's one of those things of, all right, I've watched Vox Machina, I'm gonna come into Mighty Nine, and I kind of came into it, it's like, all right, this is what I'm expecting, and I got more than what I was expecting personally. I it it, what's the words I'm looking for here? It did more
You
than what I expected from it. It outperformed my expectations, right?
okay?
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's always good to hear also that you were expecting it to be one thing, but then you go into it and it's like, damn, this is better than I expected it to be. Well, I'm kind of sorry to say, but I don't think it's a bad show for the record. But I don't know. It felt like there are too many plot points jumbled together, and not all of them were interesting enough for me. In order to because
See,
the stuff with the main crew, I think is great. Everything surrounding it, I lost track. I wasn't able to follow.
this is actually interesting because I actually do agree with you. It is a very loaded season one. Like there is a lot going on here. Personally, I really enjoyed that fact, coupled with the fact that, to me, at least to me, I would say that the Mighty Nine is much, compared to Vox Machina, at least, anyways, is much more dark fantasy, right? I think that that's a fair thing to say.
I think though, before we jump into the differences and what's similar, we
Oh,
should
sure.
probably just wrap up the
Oh, yeah,
non-spoiler
sure, sure.
part of this. So, to me personally, as someone who, because if you recall, I also thought that this first season of Vox Machina wasn't the best, right? Like I liked it fine, but if I compare, but seasons 2 and 3 really picked it up
Yep.
afterwards. So So maybe there's also the matter of maybe seasons 2 and 3 of 99. If it's is it renewed already? I'm not entirely sure,
I
but
I believe
uh,
it is. I believe they're
mm,
guaranteed at least one more season at the very least.
okay, so maybe it can get better. But for now, though, I think the stuff with the main characters is great. The stuff that surrounds it and starts getting into the inner politics of this world and the other groups of characters and everything. This is where the show starts to fumble because, as opposed to Vox Machina, each episode of the Mighty Nine is close to an hour long,
Yes.
and and on the one hand it means, well, there are more characters, there's more time to jumble everything together, and on the in theory you're right, but when the other plot points aren't as interesting to me, I think and it's not necessarily that it's not interesting on its own, but it feels like at some point I'm switching between two different shows. That's where it starts losing me.
That's fair. Again, I don't disagree with you. Right? I think it is a very loaded season one. So, and I think by the end of it, it definitely looks like, okay, we're kind of going to be paring it down somewhat in when we move into season two, which is a good thing. I would agree.
Yeah.
And it probably will most certainly give us more time to focus on our main cast, right? But I would look at it as, and I mean, I'm honestly not surprised, right, that you feel that way, because I do
Okay.
think, right, you're either going to be into Vox Machina or you're going to be into Mighty Nine. You may not be into both, right? I think there is definitely a Venn diagram where there's a lot of people who are into both, absolutely. But
Mhm.
I think it's completely fair if, no, I prefer the fantasy of Vox Machina more than the darker fantasy of the Mighty Nine, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Which,
definitely one of those. If you didn't like one, I would recommend the other. If you, and vice versa.
and if you did like Vox Machina, I would say give it a shot. You may like it, but also it is, keep in mind that it is different.
Yes.
And so now, so now this is the point where we start talking about spoilers. So if you haven't seen season 1 of the Mighty Nine and you want to get into it, you heard our thoughts. Make of them as you will. We are going to talk spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Still here? Okay. So, to something that I do prefer in this over Vox Machina. In Vox Machina, when we meet the characters for the first time, they are already a group. They are
Mm-hmm.
already together. We already walk into that dynamic. We already have this group of misfits who are trying to. I think I compared it to Guardians of the Galaxy
Yeah.
into some degree.
Yeah.
And so you walk in, you already know that these are characters that have known each other for a while. You know their dynamics. You know which one of them is what in the group, and it's very clear. So on the one hand, I like it that Mighty Nine actually starts with all of these characters, with this group being a bunch of strangers, and we get to see them, and we get to see how they meet and how they create their own like mini factions before they become this big group, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. I really enjoy that. And on the other hand, this is also the part where it's confusing me because I'm expected to follow the story of how this group came together, and then you jumble all around with all the other stories about people stealing the MacGuffin, and people are stuck in the MacGuffin, and there's a war going on in the background, and there are people that betray their own kingdoms in order to start the war and everything. You see what I mean when I say it feels like two completely different shows? These are two different stories here that are clashing for screen time.
Here's the thing that I've been
And
told that I find fascinating, right? And I'm very
yeah,
curious how they're going to translate this to a show. This is how it was with the original podcast as well, where you had
really.
like the players in the D&D game, right? Which is, the cast of Critical Role playing in their own little story, and Matt, the DM, had like, "Oh, here's all of this stuff that's happening in the background, and eventually I'm going to involve you in that." And the way I understand it, which this is fucking wild, but this is very on par for a D&D game, right? They just never really got involved for a long time. They just
Oh
avoided
God.
all of the war and the MacGuffin shit for a long period of time while they just did their own
So,
thing. And it
so
very much
you
like this
see,
show, the
Mhm.
MacGuffin kind of just fell into their laps at one point. And
Ah,
they basically, the way I understand it from what I was told, they traveled with the MacGuffin for so long, having no clue what it was, what it did, or how involved it was in this big, huge war plot in the background, which is
so
crazy.
it is so fascinating that you say that
Because
right
I'm so
now,
curious how they're going to translate that into this show, right?
because I tell you what, I don't think they did. I think they just said, okay, there's this, the law, right? The law that there's this fucking war in the background, right? This
Hmm.
entire thing that's going on behind the main characters' backs. And then there's the actual show about the Mighty Nein themselves.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, what kind of adaptation did they do if it feels like there are two completely different stories that have nothing to do with each other besides the fact that they take place in the same world?
Well,
So if you ask me, we didn't need the wall stuff at all in this.
well,
We could have saved it until
I
the main characters actually get involved in it, because by then I am already invested in these characters. I would be invested in this entire wall stuff. You get what
well,
I mean?
no, I get you. I mean, it is worth noting, right? Like at the end of this season, right? They do end up with the MacGuffin in the show, right? They have the
Yeah.
MacGuffin. They have no clue what it is or what it does, but they have it. I would say the show's probably working towards a okay, we're gonna join the war and our main cast into the war soon, right? You might see that in season 2, maybe season 3 at the latest. I would expect season 2 though, right?
Mhm.
And all of this is going to become interconnected soon because there's no way the show can go for, well, here's 3 seasons of the Mighty Nein doing whatever the fuck while all of this shit is happening, right? That's
Better. Maybe it's because of what we did last week, but imagine if they go the One Piece route, where for the 1,000 episodes they just have this thing and do nothing with it, and then on episode 1,000 it's like, maybe we should actually connect these guys to the actual thing this MacGuffin is
it
related to.
would be funny. It would be funny.
It would be funny, but I
I'm
would
all
also,
for
but
it, but that's not good television.
I, no, it's not. It's not. It's, and I think at some point, some producer is going to be like, no, you can't do that.
And
You
I say this as someone who
absolutely
loves One Piece.
can't. But yeah, besides that, so to me, these two stories didn't clash well together at all.
That's
I
fair.
didn't really care about all the politics surrounding the MacGuffin and the war and all of that stuff. But I did like the main characters.
No, I agree with you. Like, I don't know if you felt this way, but when I started watching the show, I would liken it to, like you said, right? Vox Machina comes in, they're already more or less a group, right? We don't, like, we see, we learn more about the group dynamic as we go along, but they are already more or less a group. And they do feel like, oh, this is a group of adventurers, maybe even a group of heroes, right? I would say the Mighty Nein feels more like here's a bunch of failures and fuck ups, and here's you watching them come together and how they're going to eventually become heroes, right? And that's the story you're watching. Whereas Vox
Yeah.
Machina, they may not be perfect heroes, but here's your heroes, deal with it,
Yeah,
right?
it's not even a here's your protagonists to a
Yeah,
degree,
I mean,
because
fair.
they're not heroes at all. They're just, said Guardians of the Galaxy because they're not necessarily loved in the world that they are. They, like, nobody likes them, nobody does anything. It's only when they take this life or death situation where they suddenly start making names for themselves
Mhm.
and are gaining some sort of reputation.
Yeah,
So here it's kind of the same, but also they don't know each other. They have to meet each other. They have to to learn how to walk with each other. They have to respect everything that they have to respect each other's flaws and each other's quirks. So, and personally, I find it a bit more interesting.
No, that's
Weird
fair.
as compare, weird as comparison, but this is the first thing that came to mind. It's kind of the reason why I always jived with Ratchet and Clank more than Jack and Daxter, even though
Fair.
I love both of them. Because in Jack and Daxter, these are two friends from the get go.
Yeah.
You don't need it. And with Ratchet and Clank, the entire first game is about them becoming friends and
Yeah.
learning to and all the hardships that it takes them to get to that point.
Yeah. I'd agree.
So it's a story I personally enjoy a bit more. So weird as comparison, I'm aware, but this is the best I have at the
It's a
moment.
good one. I don't
So
think it's a bad. As being familiar with both, I don't think it's a bad one.
okay, taking it, yay.
Like, yeah, like it is a good
So
comparison where again you are watching a group that's already formed and is familiar with one another compared to a group that is forming and you're watching those bonds being made, as they're being made, right? That sort of deal. It's
so
definitely a different dynamic, and like you said, it's a dynamic that personally I like a lot more. That's why personally I was drawn more into the Mighty Nine than I was Vox Machina.
mhm. And I would also give them credit that it doesn't feel like the Mighty Nine do feel like their own characters
Mhm.
besides Vox Machina, right? It's not that you're like obviously like I have the name list right here, so please forgive me if I miss anyone. But like you have Fjord, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you would think, oh, this is the character that Travis Willingham voices, so he's probably like his character from Vox Machina. No, it's not. There aren't any. You can probably say some are a bit similar, but this is a different group than Vox Machina,
Mhm.
and I like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Ford is a perfect example of like you can look at Grog and look at Ford and say, okay, like these are two very different characters on very ends of the spectrum, right? In terms of what they're doing and their character arcs.
Yeah, but I have a question for you. What do you think about Not the Brave?
I personally love Not. Do you not?
Like I like the character idea. I like the design. I like how. By the way, but there's something about the voice, and again, no disrespect to Sam Riegel, who is a great voice actor, and I think it's kind of the point. But the voice at some point got in the Owl House when Hoody's voice is essentially Alex Hirsch doing a bad Mickey Mouse impression.
Hmm.
It feels like Sam Riegel is trying to channel that, but it doesn't even work in a funny way because this is a character that's also supposed to be. This is an alcoholic who is alone and damaged and carries trauma over themselves, right? This is a character. You're not supposed to give it a bad Mickey Mouse impression voice. You get what I mean?
No, that's fair. I had a very similar opinion when I first started watching the show of, I like this is similar to the voice I believe Sam did for the podcast as well, so it's not really much different. It's
Fair enough. I'm just saying,
no, no.
even then, it also goes to the podcast then.
Yeah,
But
but it's one of those things of no, I agree with you, but like I understand like you want Sam Riegel to play his character, right? I-
it's not even a matter of I want him to play his character. It's more that I don't even think he's the wrong choice for this
Fair
character.
enough.
I just don't think the voice
No,
itself
that's
works,
fair.
in my personal opinion.
That's fair. It's one of those things of I'm willing to forego it, right? Of like it doesn't bother me that much, I should say. But I understand why it would other someone else or why it bothers you, right? Like I get
And
it,
again,
but to
it
me
has
it doesn't.
it has nothing to do with him. He's a great voice actor. He's also a great voice director because he's the voice director for this show. He's a great voice director. I'm not sure if you've seen DC Superhero Girls, but he's the voice director for that, and
Hmm,
all the cast does amazing in it. So
yeah, fair
he's a
enough.
great voice director. He's a great voice actor. I just think this voice needed some tweaking.
That's fair. That is fair.
But the character itself, I didn't mind at all. And for the record, this is also kind of the other characters too. I will say I think you'll agree with me. My favorite has to be Jester.
I kind of figured you would like Jester a lot.
She's the best. What can I
No,
do?
that's
She's
fair.
funny. And also, to give credit to a voice actor, to a voice actress that we probably talked about before, I had to
I
like.
mean,
This is such a unique voice, and I wonder who's doing that voice. And then I saw Laura
Laura
Bailey, and I'm like,
Bailey.
damn, like don't get me wrong, it's a fairly known statement that Laura Bailey has range, right?
Yes.
She's like
I mean, the woman's
if you
been in
played a
almost
video game.
everything.
Yeah, if you've seen a cartoon or an anime or played a video game, you've heard Laura Bailey to some degree in your life. That's a
Yes.
guarantee. But this is such like compared to a lot of other characters she voiced in the over the years. This is something I never heard her do that voice and this accent, but it feels so natural, right? It feels like it felt so natural. It felt so it felt like a character. I didn't even think for a second that it could have been her. I thought this is someone else that they just decided, you know what, you're fresh off the boat from somewhere. Great, let's put you in here. But no, it's her. I have to give her praise for that. She's doing
I'm
amazing in
curious,
this role.
since I know you played the game and recently came off of it. Compare Jester to Invisigal.
In physics, you know how many other characters I can. You know something?
Oh, I'm aware.
I'm replaying the Insomniac Spider-Man games now, where she is voicing Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's a fucking that's a fucking whiplash. I can tell you
It
that
is.
much. Yeah, because you can kind of tell that for MJ, she's just doing a regular voice and everything. And
Yeah, fair.
Invisigal is a bit more, a bit more deeper, a bit more tough girl and stuff.
Hmm.
And then you get this.
It's very different
So
from if you're used to Laura Bailey. It's very different than I would say her normal, right?
yeah, and
Which is
that's the
good.
thing. I
That's
don't
not a
know.
bad thing.
I don't know. How good she is. I don't even know what her normal voice sounds like anymore when she's doing a role because she has such range.
You need to
But
watch the Critical Role podcast, and you'll see
no,
her normal. You'll
no,
get to hear her normal voice more.
no,
I
I've seen
think.
her in
Who
interviews and
knows?
stuff. I know what her normal voice sounds like. But
Oh, fair.
whenever she's doing a role, it's like it's not like a Nolan North, let's say, that
Ah,
whenever
yes,
he's doing his
yes.
no, no disrespect, he is also a fantastic voice actor. But whenever he's doing his regular voice, I can tell that's Nolan North. But
Fair, fair. I would say Travis is in a similar bit of a boat where you can tell it's him sometimes. Though he has done some
It,
characters that
though to be fair, whenever he's the I kept hearing Knuckles whenever he was Knuckles in the Sonic games. I kept hearing
fair,
that in this,
fair.
which again, no, nothing bad with this, right? Nothing bad. It's not a criticism. I'm just like whenever he talks, I'm like, yep, he's channeling Knuckles. I
See,
can
for
hear
me,
it.
I was hearing like a little bit of Roy Mustang and Ace from One Piece. So, so like yeah,
Which is also fair, yeah.
again, like that
Which
just happens for voice actors.
also
Not a bad thing.
Just how funny is it that Travis and Laura Bailey are married in real life, and I think this is like the first time I've seen. This is the first thing I've seen with both of them in it, where their characters are actually together, or at least implied.
I mean, you can thank Laura for that because apparently that was her goal for like this campaign that they did for Critical Role. Yeah,
Oh, this entire thing started. This entire fucking fake war in the background started because she realized, you know what? I was never shipped with my husband in anything we were together.
more or
Hmm.
less.
And
It was also a thing of
well,
like Travis had said, "Yeah, I just don't do romance in D&D," and Laura's like, "Bet." Whether you like
oh,
it or
but
not, different discussion, but that's pretty
and
much yeah.
you know, and he was so committed. I think he realized that she got him because he's apparently one of the few people, including me, in the world that chose to to romance what's her name from Dispatch, not
Oh,
Invisigal.
yeah, the blonde blazer, right?
Yeah, Blonde Blazer, that's her name. Yes. So. Suddenly, you know something? I kind of like this show because we are not talking about it at all, but it makes us realize things about people. Okay, so back to the actual show. So yeah, Jester is my personal favorite character, but
That's fair.
everyone else is good too. Like you know what's Caleb was interesting. I like
I
Caleb,
think
and
Caleb,
also
but for me, it's between Caleb and Mollymauk, personally, right?
remind me who Molly Mac is.
Mollymauk is the purplish tiefling guy, the devil looking
Oh
one,
yeah, yeah, he was
the
cool. He
circus
was cool.
guy.
Hmm. Yeah, he was cool too. Like them too.
That is Talison's character. Very fun, very enjoyable. I like what he's doing there, right?
Yeah.
And
And
then
I should stress, speaking of voice actors, Caleb is Liam O'Brien. Like,
yes,
come on, this guy can read the phone book, and I'm listening. He could,
he's
he get he can get the most ridiculous fucking text ever, and but he can make it
well,
sound
I
even
think there's a
convincing.
reason, right? This season is, I would argue more focused on Not and Caleb for the most part than the other main cast.
Yeah,
Like this is definitely
they
their
do.
season.
They do come across a lot more as like the main two, like I wouldn't necessarily say the leaders, but they are
Mhm.
like the two that started all to a
And you're
degree.
learning like a lot more about Caleb this season than anyone else, right? Because we're very much focused on because he's like probably the most connected to, as you say, the other show that we're getting, which is all the political stuff
Yeah,
and the
because
war
he was
stuff.
a student of one of them,
Yeah,
right?
the
He was a
main,
student of one.
what I assume will probably be our main bad guy, Trent Ickathon.
Yeah.
I believe that's his name.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
So you see, this I found interesting because it's like, okay, I'm getting this connection. A character I care about is related to this whole thing. All right, we're getting there. Let's go. Nope. The show cock blocks you. That's.
I love that you
I'm
put it
not sure
that
if
way.
this is the best term to use, but I'm gonna use it
I mean,
because.
it works. Go for it. I mean, but I don't know. Personally, I love the. Maybe it's just me, but I enjoy when a show does these kind of disconnected stories and then brings them together.
I would really enjoy it too, but the problem I have with it is that in regards to this first season, it's not brought together yet,
Which
besides
that's
them
fair.
getting the MacGuffin.
Which I understand why you feel that way, and that's fair. I guess I'm more permissive of it. I'm one of those people who's like, all right, I know you're gonna probably bring it more together season two, so I'll just wait. But
And I
it
think
is
this
a
this is a
fair statement to
discussion
make. You do have to like speak about it in terms of season one, right? That's what we have. We may not get a season two, so is it good for season one? And that's gonna
because I
vary.
think this is a discussion that you and I had for years on this podcast,
This
and
is
it's
true.
probably not the last time that we're gonna talk about
Nope.
it. I think this could really depend on what type of person you are. If you're into
Hmm.
slow burns and you love the idea that season one is just setting you up and promising you things that they are going to deliver on as the show goes along, you're probably not going to have as much fun with that. Me, on the other hand, if I'm dedicating my time to watch a season, and we're talking about 8 hours of television here, give or take.
Hmm.
I'm dedicating 8 hours of my time to your show. If I'm going to feel like you're wasting some of that time, I'm going to have a bit of a problem with that. I want to make sure that my time is probably respected.
That's fair.
And to some degree, I feel like 4 hours of it were great, and the other four I wanted to fall asleep. So, but again, this is why I kind of like doing this, because you get Wolf's perspective that might appeal to you more, or maybe my perspective appeals to you more. That way,
Yeah,
you kind of know where you're going to land with this.
yeah, that's fair. Because again, like you can tell very clearly, right? That like I love stuff like this, and HC may not enjoy this as much, right?
Which, for the record, I have to say again, not a bad show. I
Yeah, no.
want to like this more if it gets picked up for another season and everything. But if I notice some kinks, I'm going to say you need to work those kinks out.
I mean, like we've always said, right? Like it, you do have to judge the season based on what you're given. And I do have to admit that if it's not something that appeals to you, and it's and again, that those connections haven't been made in season 1 and you have to wait to season 2 to see it and to get more of that connection being made for like the politics and the war in the background and the main characters, and you don't like that, that's fair, right? Like
Mhm.
that's not an unfair criticism to make, because you're not getting what one could argue is a completed season 1. And there's an entire discussion you can have, right, on more and more
Mhm.
shows doing the thing of like, see a season 2 and ending on potentially extremely big cliffhangers, right? And not feeling complete in the
And not
season they
just
showed you.
cliffhangers. And not it's not necessarily a matter of cliffhangers because we've
Yeah.
talked about we talked about seasons ones of shows here before that they then end on a cliffhanger, but at least the season itself gave me something. There was some sort of a completed feeling.
Yes, that it's a sense of something felt finished, even if it
Yes,
wasn't
May-
finished.
maybe not even finished, but like I got something out of it. I
Yeah,
got something that I'm like I can and say, you know what? I may not know the answer to this, but otherwise, I had a good time with it. I had a fantastic time with it.
that's
The,
fair.
and then if he doesn't get a season two, then it's kind of depressing because cliffhanger. But at least the season one, I had fun.
Yeah,
Now here and other shows we've covered in the past, and I can't really think of any examples besides the RBS one, but it's a terrible show, so I'm not going to discredit Mighty Nine for it. But if but again, if a season one just kind of leaves me with promises, and I don't know if it's ever going to keep these promises or if it's just going to fumble those promises at some point, I'm just gonna say, listen, the, I'm going to call you out. I'm not satisfied with your season one. I'm sorry.
that's fair. I think that's completely fair.
So that being said, we were kind of going on and off here without really talking about the show. I apologize for that. But
It's all
what
good.
about
That's
it?
what you're here
What?
for.
Yeah. So, but I will ask you, as the one that's more positive about the show than I am,
Hmm.
what specifically got to you? What are some of the stuff that you liked
Oh,
more
I
about
mean, one of the things that I loved about this season, right, was like it's not necessarily like a big story thing, but it's just the soundtrack. I love the techno cyberpunky soundtrack they put on this, right? That kind of like it feels like sci-fi and a fantasy show music. I
it?
don't
Yeah.
know why that just appeals to me so much. I love that personally. So that was
I
one of
think
my
it was.
favorite things about it. It's not really about the show, but I just
Hey,
love
it's
that.
still something. It's part of the show, and I think it is also interesting. It's also interesting in the fact that this is not the type of music you would expect to hear in a show like this, right?
No.
Considering the setting and considering all, and that's not the type of music you would expect. So the fact that you hear it and it works,
Mhm.
that's even better.
It's one of those things of like, this is again, I come back to this is why I think this show is more dark fantasy focused than Vox Machina and it's lighter hearted fantasy, right? And again, I understand Vox Machina can get dark. I know what I'm saying. Let me be clear. But I would say, based on the feeling that Mighty Nine tries to portray, the story it's telling, and just the way it kind of treats its characters to a degree, the Mighty
Yeah.
Nine feels much darker than Vox Machina. And
Mhm.
I would even go so far as to say, like, the Mighty Nine characters feel more fragile almost compared to the characters in
I
Vox
think so.
Machina.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a way to look at it. I agree.
But speaking like story and character wise, I think the thing that really got me into the show was one, the relationship between Caleb and Not, and two, just learning about Caleb as you went along, and the coming together of Not and Caleb being the coming together of the whole group, like those two characters and their dynamic, and then just the just Caleb's backstory and everything. It's just, I think that's what connected me in the most. I think that's
Because I
probably the
think
strongest
I
story
don't.
in the season.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily think we learned too much about the backstories in Vox Machina yet. Considering where we are, I don't recall.
I mean, we know, right? Like, I would say, we know, fuck, names. Uh, we know about Grog coming from his, herd. What, I forget the word they use for it in the show, but we know Grog and his tribe, right? And the Goliaths, because we've seen them and where he got his, knuckles and everything. And we've seen we know, fuck, I gotta look up the names. I can't remember them all. Not a true fan, I know.
It happens, but I think, like you said, though, there wasn't like a deep backstory to like there was some like the Percy had we know Percy's backstory,
Yeah, I mean,
but
we went into Percy's very much because he had like almost an entire season dedicated to him.
yeah, but also he's like the so and we know a bit of like the siblings, right? They are kind of we kind of know them.
Yeah, we've seen like
We
their
can
strange dad and like kind of their relationship there and what
so
happened.
so in actuality, I don't really know what I'm talking about because the more I remember, the more we do get
And
into the
then
backstories. But
we know
I think it's
Keyleth
more
is like
permanent.
on a journey
It's
for
more permanent here,
Aramente.
though.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
fair.
but I think
I would say the ones you know the least about are probably Pike and Keyleth at this point. And probably not Scan. I think you know enough about Scanlan at this point in the show, like in the animated show, Vox Machina.
yeah, definitely.
But no, for yeah, you're right. For this one, it's more prevalent.
It's more fun because I also feel like I know each of these characters' shtick, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
And
fair.
I know which one where each one of them came. I know how they deal with their issues, what their quirk is. So so it's a bit more because, like you said, Percy got a whole season in Vox Machina for it. We don't really get the siblings' backstory until season 2, if I remember.
Yeah.
So so it's something that was built up a bit more. Here, you just kind of know their stories from the start, and like I said, you get to see how they meet. And I think, in a way, I do prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, now, whether or not you prefer it or not, that's up to you. But or how they do the whole story, that's also up to you. But credit where it's due. I like these characters.
They're very good characters. The chemistry here is probably one of the strongest things about this season between all the different characters. I mean, all of the different characters, even the ones in the in the war and political stuff that's going on. Like the chemistry there is really good too. So, like, if there's any one strength I would level at season one of the Mighty Nein, it's the character interactions and the chemistry between the characters. It's very, very good.
Yeah,
Like, they did really well pairing up the characters that they paired up, right? And then having everyone come together and seeing the interactions there as well. Like, it's exceptionally well done.
agreed. Now, I have a question for you about the Traveler.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell was this thing in the campaign? Can you
Uh,
tell me?
I mean, he is a god.
So is this an actual thing? He is a literal god. It just shows up whenever he feels like it.
More or less, the way I understand it. Again, I'm not as familiar with with campaign 2, which this is. The way I understand it, if I'm not mistaken, the Traveler spent a long time being this thing of Jester, Laura's character, would talk about it and talk to them, but they were just never there. They would never answer. Nothing ever happened from it. The Traveler was just a non entity until kind of like this show did it. He was there, right? And all of a sudden, like, oh fuck, he's been there the whole time. What the fuck? Um,
Okay, so it's
do you
not
care about
necessarily that
spoilers
he's
for
just
the podcast campaign? Do you care about spoilers for
I
that?
I just want to know because for the longest time they also tried to that maybe Jester just understand that she's nuts. Okay,
I mean, this is
but
fair.
then
Not
but then
wrong.
Yeah, but then this guy actually shows us. So I'm wondering if it's the same. If what the deal with this thing was in the campaign. What, like, it was this actually a thing that they just decided, you know what, let's just fuck around and have this god there, and it just shows up whenever, and this is actually one of my favorite scenes in the show, that
It's very
Jester
fun.
and not just go into the church and start demolishing it in the name of
Mm-hmm.
the traveler,
Mm-hmm.
and the priest walks in. It's like, I just and the priest just walks in and goes like, these two people, and then he literally go, what the fuck? And,
It's very good though.
yeah, no, it's good. I said I loved it. I'm just
No,
saying,
no, fair, fair.
I am just wondering if this was carried over from the original campaign.
I would say more or less, yeah, from what I understand. Like it's very much a thing of, yeah, everyone thought she was crazy and insane, and actually, wait, no, she isn't. What the fuck? So
Well,
you'll expect to
surprise.
get more of that. Expect to get more of that.
Okay. If this is the thing, then you know what? I'm looking forward to seeing where this is gonna go. So I kind of just saw here. Apparently, season two is that apparently post production on season two is already in progress as of December of last year.
Yes. Yeah, they're already working on it.
So which means we are probably going to get it sometime this year. That being said, what do you want to see in a season two?
Oh, I mean, number one, I want to see them bring the two stories together more. I While I would love the funny bit of, wait, no, we're just watching the Mighty Nein go off and do their little thing. Here's the second show off to the side that's still happening, and everybody's wondering, where the fuck is the MacGuffin? What happened to the MacGuffin? Well, that would be absolutely hilarious. As said, that
It
would
would be,
probably
but it
not
would
be
also
good television,
be.
so I want to see all of that come together, right?
And I do think we missed a character though, and I have to. You need to remind me what her name is, because again, the names I just couldn't. What's the character that looks like Cora?
Oh, Bo. I looks like Cora. Yeah, no. I had the
I'm
exact
not
same thought when I first saw her as
okay.
well.
I'm not alone in
You're
this,
not
thank
alone.
God. But
No.
but here's a character that I liked, but I also felt like they didn't really do much with her.
I would agree. I think when she started interacting more with Caleb and they started connecting those two, it was really interesting. But I do agree with you.
Yeah,
Bo is definitely someone I'd want to see more of. I want to see more of Molly. And
yeah.
to the people who are listening, yes, I know what happens, but I still want to see like how they do that in the show, and I'm very curious as to like the mysteries they're doing with Molly. Because like,
Apparently, there's in the cast list here, it says that in an interview with Paste, Jeffrey expressed gratitude that the animated series would give the opportunity to explore Molly's backstory, given the character's death early in the original campaign. So
spoilers,
that's interesting.
spoilers,
Well, it's in the Wikipedia page, so fuck me, right?
wiki
I.
spoilers. How dare you? Spoiler brackets, Wikipedia. God. But yes, Molly does die, so that's something that I'm very curious to see, right, and how they're gonna do that.
Well, guess I don't need to get attached. I'm gonna try not to get
A little
attached,
bit
but
sad that you got
knowing
spoiled on that. It would have been fun, but it happens. It is
I'll
like an
live.
old podcast, right? So like that, we do technically already
But then
know how
again,
this ends, right?
yeah, but then again, it's also kind of like saying that I spoiled myself the Supergirl movie because I read the comic it's based on, right? It's like
True,
at
true.
some point with adaptations, you come across spoilers of the source material at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
So,
it's not much you can do about it. It happens.
but okay, but you know something, it's not like also the type of this is the type of show that I think would have a body count for the main cast. I don't know, it just feels like it. It's that type of
Well,
world,
I'm interested, right?
It's
Like
not.
coming off of Vox Machina, where technically we've seen main characters die and then come back. Like, if you didn't know what you know now, and Molly had died, would you have thought he would have came back at first, right?
I think it depends because when I look at this particular group,
Mm-hmm.
right? when I look at this particular group, I would say I would kind of say there's a chance because, but the thing is that the one person that I would bet my money that would do it would be Molly.
That's fair. He does either him or Caleb is
So
what I would have thought.
yeah, but Caleb, they do establish that his magic is more limited.
Mm,
So, and the show is also not really consistent with what exactly make his magic work. So, I'm not, I'm not necessarily saying so. Caleb is not reliable to do something like this.
fair enough.
Molly, possible. Thing is, could Molly do it to himself, or
Interesting.
themselves?
Mm, interesting.
So this is something that I think the show needs to establish a bit, but because in Vox Machina it's just this kind of world, and they have healers, they have magic people there, so so it is kind of possible that like okay, if this person is gone, there's probably a chance that what maybe we can do something with it.
This is true.
But here, if you kill off the one character that has the potential to do it, and or at least the most reliable potential to do it, I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm not sure. Maybe here, and also this does feel like a bit of a darker show than Vox Machina, so
Yeah,
maybe
agreed.
maybe it's not it,
Oh, again,
because
like I. Oh, go ahead.
they also established though that the magic is a bit more so like you can see with Caleb and how he has to do magic. He needs material, right?
Hmm.
He needs to cover himself in shit in order to do magic, right?
Yeah,
So maybe that's another thing that how do you get magic in this that could make it reliable?
it's interesting, right? I do like that they're showing like, well, it's interesting in so much as this is how it works for Caleb, but it doesn't necessarily work that way for some of the other characters. But they give you reason to think, okay, well, Jester, I mean, maybe the Traveler's real question mark, and then you kind of do see that. It's like, okay, well, she gets her magic from the Traveler. Okay, for Ford, I mean, he gets his magic potentially from Eldritch entity or
Mhm.
sword
Whatever's in
question
that
mark.
sword, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So like you have these reasons, like they're building up in a very background way, which I do enjoy. Like, hey, here's how these different forms of magic work. But here's Caleb. He has no connection to anything. He has to find shit and mash it together, and that's how he can do his magic, right? But then there's
Hmm.
Molly, who we have no fucking clue how Molly works. Something to
Yeah.
do with blood, maybe, but that's about it, which is fascinating, right? I love how they're building
Hmm.
that up. So I'm very
Yes.
curious to see, like, I want more of Molly and more of what's going on with him and his backstory and how they're going to connect that in. And I just want to see, like, again, the main cast become more connected into the other plot that's going on. Again, I think
Agreed.
there's a lot of fun stuff here they can build off of for season two.
Mhm.
The biggest
The
one
again,
since we, oh
the
yeah,
potential is there. There's
mm-hmm.
something good that can be done with this world, and I'm interested. Like if they make a season two, I'm like, you know what, I'm in. I'll buy it. I'll see where you're going with this. But let's connect things just a tiny bit more.
That's fair. I think you're definitely going to get that. I think that's a guarantee. I assume that's going to be at some point in season two, right? It's going to, that I highly doubt they'll do what the campaign did. As I said, while I think it would be absolutely hilarious, I do not think it will make for good television. So you might get some stuff ported over and they'll kind of like make it work within the story they're doing. But I think compared to Vox Machina, I suspect that the Mighty Nein will be, as a show, somewhat fairly different from the original campaign, right? In terms of
Mhm.
pacing.
Yeah, because I tell you what, also though, in terms of differences between the two shows, and I know that we compared the two a lot, but considering this is the same crew, this is the same world and everything,
Yeah, that's
you
fair.
kind of it's just something that kind of happens
Mm,
naturally. But
yeah.
I tell you what, when it comes down to if I have to compare the two, Vox Machina does kind of feel like a bunch of friends coming together and having fun,
Mm-hmm.
coming up with a story. And in this one, it felt like they are aiming for let's do. it's not just friends having fun. This is friends who came together and decided, let's actually make this fucking world. Let's develop this. Let's do something involved with this. If I have to compare, if I have to like compare to something,
I don't know if you'll agree with this, but this is what I like it. This is what I when I first saw it, this was the feeling I got from it and what I told someone. Vox Machina is we're going on an adventure, yeah. And the Mighty Nine is more of it, man, it is I'm sad. Let's explore that.
yeah, I think the best I think one of the ways I have to describe it is that if one is, I'm trying to think of like something in the genre that could like be, and like I something, because
Ex-
I know I made this comparison earlier, but you know what? And I know the movie is not out yet, but if I'm basing it on if it's based on that comic, then I guess it could work. This is like saying that Guardians of the Galaxy and the new Supergirl movie are both space travel adventures, but one is a lot more fun and energetic and colorful and wacky, and the other one is a character study and a western.
mm-hmm. Fair.
Just because both of them have this like one thing,
Yeah. No.
that one thing that they are, in this case, space adventure. In this show's case, it's a D&D. It's a D&D campaign turned into a show.
Yeah.
That you can have two different approaches to it.
Yeah. Fair.
And to be fair, when you have these different approaches to something, obviously you're going to get a few people who prefer this and a few people who prefer that. You can also like both, of course, but at the end of the day, it's interesting that they just decided, you know what? Let's do a darker version. Let's do a
Well,
version that we are a bit more, that we are going to explore those darker themes and not just try and have fun. And not to say that Vox Machina doesn't do that, right? The characters are deep there. They have the
yeah,
dramatic
they
moments and
are.
everything, but it's more, but it's a bit more, again, like you said, adventure, right? It's this
Mm-hmm.
adventure and this world and these characters, getting themselves into a bunch of, fantasy like stakes. Here you have this fantasy world, but it also shows that, you know what, let's show characters that are kind of fucked up, that they don't like this world, they are cynical towards this world, they just they just happen to come together, and it's like, yeah, sure, we kind of need to stick together because we're fuck ups essentially.
Well, except for one character, yeah, and that being like, which I also find very interesting is Jester. She is such a juxtaposition for everyone else on this cast,
Yeah,
for
which
the
I think
most
I
part.
which I think this is also the reason why I like her so
Like
much,
she's so
but it's
happy,
also,
upbeat, and like, yeah, the world's great. Everyone else, this sucks. I hate my life.
but for one, this is also because she's the one that's different to the other cast, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
obviously she's tracking attention because of it. But I think it's also that to some degree she also has her own mess of a life, right? Because
She does.
she essentially she lives in a strip club, essentially. That's what this
Yeah,
place is,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Brothel, yeah.
Yeah, and then one day her mother just tells her, "Listen, you're not safe here. Get the fuck out. Get to this location." Right? This is to any other. This would be the start of a drama movie, right?
Hmm.
This could be the backstory for a character in a live action Oscar Best Picture at the Oscars nominee movie. You get what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
And she's so chipper about it, and she's just super into the idea that just being with, and but she also has this bit where she just realized that, you know what, that if the traveler is actually not real, that means she's alone. She's never been alone because she had the traveler.
Mhm.
But now when she has the Mighty Nine, she has other friends,
No, like
and that's
that's another I think going to be very interesting thing of like what you said, like when she goes with not to, destroy the church, right? The temple, right? Like you can see,
Mhm.
okay, this is Jester kind of breaking a little bit, and you're seeing maybe behind what might be a mask, or just,
Yeah,
you're seeing the innocence break a little bit. I think another good
because
moment of like seeing the innocence break a little bit is where where like she gives Molly back his cards, his deck of cards, like close to the end, like the last episode, right? And you can
Mhm.
see like Molly looks, like it's super angry, right? Like something had happened, and she's like, "Are you good?" And like there's almost this like worry in her voice.
Yeah,
It's one of those things of you can tell it's gonna probably be some great fucking acting from Laura and a great moment in the show to see Jester kind of just fully break at some point, and that's probably gonna happen in a show like this, right? You can't
it's
have
probably going
someone
to
this bubbly and
happen.
upbeat in a dark show like this.
It's gonna happen. If they get more seasons, it's gonna happen at some point. This character is going to face some sort of a reality check, and
And it's
I'm
gonna
gonna say
break my
because
heart.
of yeah, because like I know it will probably break my heart, but I also like it. It's gonna happen.
Yes,
You know, it's
yes.
gonna happen.
Yeah, you can't. Again, she's too happy, too upbeat, and too bubbly in what is ostensibly, where what feels like, at least anyways, a dark fantasy show. Sorry, that's not allowed.
Because and no, because also whenever the traveler does show up to her, she's not really satisfied with the answer, right? Because
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
basically she asks him if he's actually real, if he's going to show up, and he basically tells her, "I don't know," and fucks off. So
I mean, gods do be like that, I suppose.
I suppose so. Something. It'll be. You know what will be amazing? This is just a crack fic thing. Okay, I'm
Fair.
not saying this is
Let's
gonna.
go.
If she just turns into Kratos from God of War, the gods betrayed, the gods abandoned me. I'm going to murder all of them now.
Would be funny.
That'll be fucking wild, though. Let's be honest. That'll be amazing. Fans, write me that fan fiction, please. That'll be awesome.
Might already exist.
Does it?
I mean, I don't know. It might. I'm sure
Mm.
there's a lot
If
of
it
fan
might,
fiction for Mighty Nine.
if it, I'm sure, but if it's real, if somebody did that, send this to us. If it's
Fair
not
enough.
real, write it and then send this to us, please and thank you.
Make
Well,
it
anything
just as
else?
campy as God of War.
God of War is not campy, buddy. It's
The old
not.
ones, a little bit. The old
No,
ones.
no, it's even that is not really like it's over the top
Well,
violent, but it's not campy.
maybe not campy, but tongue in cheek, I would say.
Not even that.
You don't think so?
It takes itself. No, it takes itself pretty seriously. All things considered.
Maybe I'm not remembering the old ones very well then. That might be a me thing
Well,
then, because I felt like they were. I feel, again, going off of memory, I think they're very somewhat tongue in cheek, but
a topic for another podcast. I wouldn't say this. You gave
what?
me an idea, though.
Oh
We'll
no.
see. We'll see about that. So, okay. So, with all that said, is there anything else to say about the Mighty Nine before we wrap up?
I love this. I can't wait for season 2. If you haven't seen it, I would 100% recommend it. And if you didn't like Vox Machina, I think you might enjoy Mighty Nine more. If you did like Vox Machina, you may not like Mighty Nine as much. Or maybe you're in the Venn diagram where I like both. Welcome.
I definitely think there's going to be an interesting talk about surrounding this and regards to where it falls with fans of the original campaign, with fans of Critical Role in general, and
Hmm.
and also fans of Vox Machina. I think there's going to be some interesting discussions about this, also as this show goes along. So
Yes.
I will say, while I think season one is interesting but flawed, I am interested in seeing where this can go, but. I also want the main characters to be a part of the bigger story now because I need to give a shit about the bigger story, and right now I don't.
That's fair. I think season 2, I mean, maybe this is indicative of many shows, but for this one, I think more than anything, season 2 is going to be very make or break for this show, right? Because I think a lot of people are going to be like me of, okay, I can forgive this and I can move forward with season 1 so long as season 2 does what I think it's going to do. And
Yeah.
if season 2 doesn't, I think that's when you're going to see probably sentiment turn against this show, most certainly. Right? Because it's not going to be seen as good if that's the case. Potentially.
Yep. So I'm interested. Let's see what they do with it. And
Agreed.
whenever they do something with it, we'll probably be here to review it.
Yep.
So anything else, or are we wrapping
Oh,
it up?
go watch Mighty Nein.
If you haven't, then we just spoiled a lot of it for you. So oops. That being said, that's all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What do you think about the Mighty Nine? How does it compare to the original campaign? All Vox Machina in your eyes? And what are you expecting to see in a season 2? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team, and on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. So until the next episode, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.